It's time to spill the tea. Hello!
You there, and welcome to A Spoonful of Theatre.
And this is another one of our Spill the Tea theatre podcasts where we review a local piece of Singapore theatre right outside the theatre foyer. I'm TJ, theatre director and practitioner.
And I'm Sam, a teacher of language, literature, and self-proclaimed show business lovey. And TJ, what have we just watched?
We have just watched Invisible at the Singapore Fringe Festival, and it was absolutely stunning.
Oh, I have to tell you, TJ, I think this is one of the most important pieces of local theatre I've ever seen. It was just beautifully done, beautifully written, beautifully acted, just a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. Now, let's get straight into it. Tell our audience, what is Invisible about?
So Invisible is about many things, but ultimately it is about inclusivity and also a bit deeper than that, actually, because it deals with the inclusivity of people with disabilities that you don't often see. So the play is performed by 4 fabulous actresses, and straight off, what I really enjoyed about the writing was that when we deal with plays that are not written with inclusivity in mind, when you go to an open performance where they're an accessible performance, when they're trying to make accessibility an add-on to a piece of theatre, it's usually done at the very beginning in a very dry way. What are they wearing? What are they doing? How can you visualize this? That was interpreted in this piece through some beautiful narration that explained what was happening in the scenes, but not in a dry, this is what's going on way, like a subtitles way, just as part of the dialogue. And what Haresh managed to create in that dialogue was absolutely stunning and really brought together all audiences, no matter how you access theatre. You could enjoy that, and it made it enjoyable for everybody in the audience, and it's so nice that it isn't an add-on.
This is the first piece of work that I have seen of Mr. Haresh Sharma, and I can see why he's a cultural medallion winner, because, as you rightfully say, the accessibility is so beautifully interwoven into the narration and into the narrative. But even the narrative itself, this is not one story. This is a collection of stories about invisible disabilities that are made visible in this piece of work. And it's so beautifully interwoven that it just came together so well. Do you know what it made me think of? It made me think of Love Actually. And Love Actually is famous for how it interweaves those and brings those narratives together. This play has done exactly that with such an important topic, and something that I absolutely loved about it is how it brought so much authenticity in how people are perceived and may struggle with those disabilities, but more importantly how local society, because this is put in a very local setting, how local society in all its forms, from education to work, the world of work, government as well, how they deal with disabilities and invisible disabilities as well. I thought that was so important, and it really hit a nerve with the education side of things. You and I are both educators, and it really hit a nerve. It's that old saying, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, that fish will always believe that it's stupid.
Okay.
And there was that aspect to it as well.
Yeah.
When really and truly, and I think this was really implicit in the narrative, was that idea of multiple intelligences.
Yes, absolutely.
That, okay, you may not be book smart, but you may have the highest EQ possible.
Yeah, or artistic, or creative. Yeah.
And I thought that was really, really done very, very nicely.
And
really
do you know what
well.
I particularly loved? That it wasn't preachy. Because
No.
quite often we see pieces of work in Singapore where we're making a political point, or we're making a point that is about the narrative here that needs to change, but then it really feels like you're in a political speech or a statement. And I think towards the end, what was really done nicely is that all of those points were hit, and it mentioned things that need to change, but it was done where the story wasn't impacted, or you weren't shoehorning it in. Like, the characters were talking about that. I think at times I would have loved just a bit more subtlety in the ending, but it still wasn't in your face. And I really appreciate that, because we got the message, but you didn't need to make it so obvious, and you didn't need to say down with the PAP. You know, you needed to just, we've seen it. We saw it on stage. We saw what needs to change. And we don't need it saying again. So it was really beautiful how that came together at the end for us as well, as a message.
Yes. It felt genuine. The conversations felt genuine. It felt, as I say, authentic, that those sort of conversations are happening right now on a daily basis. And those feelings as well, whether it be depression or dyslexia or cognitive function or something like that, that those feelings are felt every day.
Yep.
And those conversations are happening every day.
Yeah, and do you know what I really loved about the story? The thing that was very clever, and this obviously was very intentional. So we see these characters in this first scene, and they're in a hotel room, and it's quite obvious from the beginning in this original scene which character has the most obvious disability to the world. And we start with that story. But then what the audience doesn't expect is that everyone else in that scene also has a form of disability that you didn't see, that was invisible.
Yes.
And that was really beautiful. And I loved when I caught on to that's what was happening. I'm like, that is clever.
Yes,
it was really clever.
There was so much clever writing, so much. And yes, as I said earlier, you can see why Mr. Haresh Sharma is a cultural medallion winner.
And you know, I think back to our podcast, because, you know, this was a collaboration with Art Dis, which is a charity here in Singapore that helps bring people with disabilities to the theatre and include them and give them opportunities on stage and around the theatre circle. And, you know, Haresh was saying this is his first time working in this space as well. And I think it goes to show that the inclusion isn't something just to tick off. It can create beautiful pieces of theatre and doesn't take away from anything and completely adds to everything as well. So absolutely kudos to the festival for not only shining a light on it, but it's their featured program of the festival and putting that front and center for audiences. And I'm sure people are really going to resonate with this beautifully.
Yes.
Right, let's get into it. So let's talk about the production in a bit more detail. So the acting and the performances.
Again, the acting and the performances, for me, they felt so authentic. As I say, the conversations and the dialogue felt so real. And again, I guess this goes into the credit of the writing, that it felt like there was no need to overact. The conversations felt so natural, so well written, so well done, that there was no need to overdo it, so to speak. What about you?
What I particularly enjoyed, just my director cap on, I was because the stage was an open concept stage where you could see the wings and you could see the actors putting on costumes and everything. I was particularly watching how they had adapted to include every actor in the space and the little things that they'd put in place to make sure that every actor's needs were met, but without taking away from the performance. For example, one of the actors had their own version of the script in big font, in big letters, on a big clipboard with a little light that they could go and check where they are in their show, which is, again, just a really small moment. And then for also when they're doing transitions, that I could see the actors checking in. They weren't coming out of character, but they were checking in with the other actors on stage to say, are you ready to go? Can we move on? And gently guiding and helping through the performance. And again, just beautiful to watch, and really beautifully directed, so that the performance still flowed, but everybody on the stage felt safe, ready to do their best work.
Now, what about staging?
This is where I really geek out. I love bare bones. There's a famous book called The Empty Stage, and I live my life by it because I think, you know, I grew up in a place where we didn't have thousands of dollars to do theatre. So when you can make theatre from an empty room and a few tables and chairs and a few pieces of cloth, actually I think that's harder than when you have a really easy kind of multi-$100,000 set that makes everything look really obvious. You have to work harder, and you have to make the actors have to work harder for the audience to believe the settings they're in. So what was really done about this is, you know, just a few plain white pieces of cloth and trolleys and benches became every single scene we need seamlessly. And even just some little things, like there was a moment when the cloth at the back, which just looked like a backdrop, they used that for one of the actresses when she was having a spiral to just gently walk through while the scene was going on at the front. Really subtle. And then they used it in the kind of scene transitions. And you know I hate a blackout. We never had a blackout.
No, we didn't.
And we didn't need it, and the audience buy into that. And it really kind of showcases the brilliance of the direction to keep the story flowing, and every picture was unique, you know, just those few little pieces of props and set. There was no copying of, oh, let's do the same shapes. Like, it's amazing what you can do with just 4 benches and putting them in different configurations to showcase that. And what it really felt like was this piece was written for a fringe festival.
Yes.
And it showed that experience of, if I write, what are we able to achieve in a fringe setting, in a fringe space, with a fringe budget, but make the most out of it, so it feels like a piece of theatre that is 10 times the price.
Yes, I agree with you there. I think if you gave it more set, if you gave it more props or anything like that, it would somehow feel less authentic than it already is. And I agree with you. Like the way they moved around the set pieces, like there was a moment where they're in Bali, and it absolutely felt at that moment that they were in Bali. Those set pieces made it easily very dynamic. It made the piece very, very dynamic. So I was very, very impressed with that. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, as you know by now, when TJ and I go and see a piece of theatre, we always give it a spoonfuls rating out of 5, but we never reveal to each other how many spoonfuls we are going to give until that moment has come, and that moment is now. Are you ready, TJ?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, 5. Absolutely, it so deserves a 5 from both of us. Go on, tell us why, TJ.
Beautiful piece of theatre, and to say this the first time it's been seen in front of an audience, hats off, because most works overseas go through many, many more stagings like this to get to a place where bigger audiences see it, and that is why I love Fringe, because you can find a little gem, and I really hope this piece finds itself again, but also sometimes works might not, and actually I love that too, because maybe this also could be a piece that is this moment with this cast that was written for this moment, that just lives for the people that buy the tickets right now. So I've just contradicted myself as I was saying that, but that is why we love theatre.
We had a wonderful conversation with Haresh Sharma the other day, and Haresh Sharma is so famous in the local theatre scene because of the literal hundreds of plays that he's written. And I think it's one of those moments where somebody who knows local theatre, somebody who loves local theatre, we're like, oh, what Haresh Sharma pieces have you seen? Or what was your first Haresh Sharma play that you've seen? And I'm glad this is my first one. I really, really am glad this is my first one, because it was such beautiful storytelling, so expertly written and so authentically performed that it's one of the most easy 5s I can give. It's been a wonderful, wonderful play to watch tonight.
And I think last year in Singapore we only gave 1 10 out of 10, and we're not even in the end of January and we've already found that 10. So I think 2026 is going to be a fabulous year at Singapore Theatre for us.
Absolutely. Right, my tea's gone cold, love. Shall we leave it there?
Absolutely.
So that's a cheerio from us. We'll be back soon.
And a hurrah from me.
And to the cast and crew of the tremendous play Invisible.
And to anyone else performing in Singapore Theatre,
break a leg.